White millionaire CEO left black triplets at birth. Years later, he panics seeing them at his own company. Welcome back to Soul Thread Stories by T, where life's most powerful lessons unfold through extraordinary journeys. I'd like you to drop your location and the time you're watching in the comments. I love knowing where my Soul Thread family is tuning in from around the world. Before we begin, I want to speak to you as my family. If you do not support parents hating their children or children's friends based on their skin color, you'd hit that subscription button. This is to show me if your heart is on the right path. Now, let me take you into a moment that changed lives forever. The gleaming atrium of Grayson Industries buzzed with activity as executives and employees prepare for the annual Innovation Conference. Elliot Grayson, the 58-year-old CEO worth billions, adjusted his custom Italian tie and practiced a smile that had graced countless magazine covers. Mr. Grayson, the board members are assembled in the East Wing, his assistant said, handing him a leather portfolio. Perfect. The new diversity initiative presentations begin at 2, correct? Elliot asked, scanning the schedule. Yes, sir. 3 new program directors will present there. Elliot's phone buzzed. Another congratulatory message about Grayson Industries being named one of the country's most progressive workplaces. The irony wasn't lost on him. Then he saw her. Across the marble expanse, a young black woman in a tailored burgundy suit commanded attention from a circle of senior executives. Her confident stance, her gesturing hands, the way she tilted her head when listening. Elliot froze mid-step. The portfolio slipped from his hands, paper scattering across the polished floor. His vision tunneled. The ambient chatter of the atrium faded to silence. "Sir, are you all right?" his assistant asked, bending to collect the fallen documents. But Elliot couldn't respond, because the woman turned and their eyes met. Those eyes, his eyes. "That's Amara Johnson," his assistant explained, following his gaze. "The brilliant community organizer who developed our new urban investment program. The board is absolutely thrilled with her work." Elliot's heart hammered against his ribs. Blood drained from his face. "Sir, you look like you've seen a ghost. Should I call medical?" "No," Elliot managed, his voice a strangled whisper. "When did she join the company?" 3 months ago. Same time as that tech innovator, Malik, and the cultural advisor, Zuri. It's remarkable, actually. They've transformed entire departments despite being so young. 3 names. 3 faces he'd never seen, but had haunted him for 25 years. "They can't be here," Elliot whispered. "They can't." As Amara began walking toward them, Elliot backed away, bumping into a security guard. "Mr. Grayson?" Amara called out. "I was hoping to discuss the next phase of our community initiative." Her voice, confident, commanding, intelligent, echoed in the space between them, a space filled with buried secrets and abandoned responsibilities. I have an emergency," Elliot stammered, turning abruptly toward the exit. But as he pushed through the revolving doors to the street, his phone lit up with a notification. A company-wide email announcing a special recognition ceremony for 3 exceptional new hires, with their photos attached. 3 identical faces with his eyes, his mother's jawline, and the unmistakable features of Zara, the woman he'd left in Paris 25 years ago. The triplets he'd abandoned had found him, and they had no idea who he was. But how long would that last? What would you do if your greatest secret suddenly walked through your door? Comment below and stay with me, because the story of power, betrayal, and redemption is just getting started. Elliot's sleek Bentley cut through Manhattan traffic as he fled the atrium. His driver noticed the CEO's ashen face in the rearview mirror. "Home, sir? Or the penthouse?" "The estate," Elliot replied, loosening his tie. "Cancel everything. Tell the board I'm ill." His sprawling Hamptons mansion stood as a monument to his ascent, from ambitious business school graduate to ruthless corporate titan. 30 years of calculated decisions had transformed Grayson Industries from his father's modest manufacturing company into a global technology and media empire valued at $87 billion. The New York Times had called him America's most eligible bachelor well into his 50s. Forbes featured him annually on their power lists. What they didn't know was that every achievement, every acquisition, every dollar in his $9.4 billion fortune served as a distraction from what he'd done in Paris. In his wood-paneled study, Elliot unlocked a hidden safe behind Monet Original and extracted a worn leather journal. The last entry, dated June 18, 1999, contained a Polaroid photo of a young woman with luminous dark skin, wild curls, and a radiant smile, Zara Phillips. 25 years, he whispered, fingers trembling as they traced her image. That summer had been intoxicating. He was 33, fresh from his first major business success, traveling through Europe while negotiating his company's expansion. She was 28, a brilliant art history doctoral student from London, leading tours at the Louvre. Their meeting had been pure chance. A rainy afternoon, a forgotten umbrella, and a coffee shop on Boulevard Saint-Germain, where she'd offered him shelter under hers. Americans, she teased, her British accent melding with the melody of the rain. Always rushing, never prepared for the elements. 3 weeks of passion followed. Midnight discussions about art and philosophy along the Seine. Morning light streaming through gauzy curtains in her modest apartment. Her laughter echoing through the halls of small galleries as she introduced an artist he'd never appreciated before. You see the world through numbers, she told him, pressing her palm against his chest. But there's so much more to life than what can be calculated, Elliot. When his European business concluded, he'd invited her to America. She declined. I have my work, my studies, my life here, she explained. And you have an empire to build. Our worlds would never align. He'd left, promising to return. But 2 months later, his phone rang at midnight. I'm pregnant, Zara said, her voice steady despite the news that would alter both their lives. And the doctors say it's triplets. The memory of what followed still cut like glass. His family's reaction had been swift and brutal. A black woman? Triplets? Out of wedlock. His father had exploded during a private dinner at their mansion. The board will never accept it. The conservative clients will withdraw. Everything we built will collapse. His mother, cold and calculating, had been more direct. Pay her off. Make her disappear. This isn't about love, Elliot. It's about legacy. He'd flown to Paris that weekend, checkbook in hand, shame burning in his throat as he offered Zara enough money to make the problem go away. Her expression, hurt melting into disgust, haunted him still. I don't want your money, she'd said, voice breaking. I wanted you to be the man I thought you were, the one who saw beyond borders and backgrounds, who wasn't afraid to love differently than he was taught. He'd left the check anyway. Left her standing in that tiny apartment with 3 lives growing inside her. Left because he was afraid, not of loving her, but of losing everything else he'd been conditioned to value. The check was returned, torn to pieces, with a note. They will never know you, and that will be your punishment. He never saw her again. Through private investigators, he'd learned that Zara had returned to London, given birth to 2 girls and a boy, and raised them in a vibrant community of artists and academics. She completed her doctorate and become a respected curator at a small but influential gallery. The children had thrived under her fierce protection and love, but he'd never seen their faces, never learned their names. Until today. Elliot poured himself a double scotch and opened his laptop. 3 employee profiles appeared on the screen. Amara Johnson, 25, Community Investment Director. Education, Oxford and Columbia. Known for innovative urban development strategies that balance corporate interests with community needs. Malik Johnson, 25, Technology Innovation Lead. Education, MIT. Had developed revolutionary accessibility software before joining Grayson Industries. Zuri Johnson, 25, Cultural Integration Specialist. Education, Royal College of Art and NYU. Award-winning multimedia artist whose work examined corporate social responsibility. All 3 had different departments. different hiring managers, different paths to the company. Yet they had arrived simultaneously. This wasn't coincidence. This was calculated, methodical. The liquor burned as Elliot swallowed hard. How much did they know? Had Zara finally told them? Were they here for revenge, exposure, or something else entirely? His phone rang. The board chairman. Elliot, the new diversity hires are exceptional, especially those Johnson siblings. Did you know they're triplets? Remarkable story. Raised by a single mother in London, each brilliant in their own way. Exactly the fresh perspective we need. Elliot's hand tightened around his glass. Siblings? Did they mention their father? No, the chairman replied, though Ms. Johnson, Amara, did ask about your background. Seemed particularly interested in your time in Europe before taking over the company. Just professional curiosity, I'm sure. As he hung up, Elliot noticed his hand shaking. 25 years of power, control, and carefully maintained secrets were unraveling in real time. The triplets hadn't found him by accident. They were hunting him. Have you ever discovered a secret someone tried desperately to hide from you? What did you do? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story of secrets, identity, and confronting the past, hit that like button, because you won't believe what these triplets have planned for the man who walked away from them. 3,000 miles away, in a cozy London flat filled with books and artwork, Zara Phillips placed her teacup on the dining table and studied the three faces on her video call. "How is everyone settling in?" she asked, her voice still carrying the melody that had captivated Elliot decades earlier, though now lined with the wisdom of years. "Mom, you wouldn't believe the resources they have," Malik said, adjusting his glasses. His apartment in New York showed sleek minimalism, a stark contrast to the warm chaos of their childhood home. The R&D budget is astronomical. They've given me an entire team. "That's because they need you more than you need them," Zara replied with the quiet confidence she'd instilled in her children. All three of you, growing up in their mother's world, had been extraordinary for the triplets. Zara had transformed their modest circumstances into an education no privileged upbringing could match. Their home had been a rotating salon of intellectuals, artists, and activists, Oxford professors arguing politics at the dinner table, musicians composing in their living room, community organizers mapping strategies at midnight, when other children had summer camps. The triplets had museum apprenticeships and community projects. While peers worried about fashion trends, they debated global economics. Their mother had ensured they saw themselves not as abandoned children, but as uniquely positioned global citizens with responsibilities to the communities that nurtured them. "The board meeting is tomorrow," Amara said, her New York hotel room visible behind her. Unlike her brother's minimalism, her space burst with color and organized chaos, journals, sticky notes, and strategy documents covering every surface. "Grayson looks like he's seen a ghost every time I enter a room." "Good," Zuri replied, her Brooklyn loft studio visible in her background, canvases and multimedia installations surrounding her. "Let him squirm. Did you see his face in the atrium yesterday? I thought he might collapse." "We agreed, no confrontation until we're sure," Malik cautioned. "The DNA results come back next week." The triplets had suspected Elliot was their father for only 8 months. The revelation came not from their mother, but from an unexpected encounter at a London gallery opening featuring Zuri's work. "You have his eyes," an elderly woman had told Zuri that night, mistaking her for Amara. "Elliot's eyes. I'd recognize them anywhere." The woman, Catherine Willington, a retired executive who'd worked with Elliot in his early days, had thought she was speaking to someone who already knew. Her casual comment ignited a search that led the triplets through decades of business archives, social media archaeology, and finally, a private investigator who confirmed their suspicions. Zara had neither confirmed nor denied when they confronted her. Instead, she'd shown them the torn check and note she'd kept locked away. "I never lied to you," she'd said. "I told you he chose not to be part of our lives. The rest was his story to tell, not mine." But Mom, Amara pressed now on the video call, you still haven't told us why you applied for that curator position at the Grayson Foundation's new museum. Is that why we found him? Were you finally ready for us to know? Zara's expression shifted subtly. I applied because it was the right position at the right time. If that led you to certain discoveries, perhaps it was simply time for truth to emerge. The triplets exchanged glances through their screens. Their mother had always been their fierce protector, but her occasional cryptic responses about their father had grown more prominent in recent years. Back to the plan, Malik redirected. Amara, your community investment proposal goes before the board tomorrow? Amara nodded. 7 neighborhoods, $250 million in development funds. It's the largest community initiative they've ever considered. Grayson can't deny its potential. The projections show a 40% increase in long-term profit alongside sustainable community growth. And my accessibility platform launches next month, Malik added. Initial tests show it could open their products to 120 million new users globally. My exhibition opens in their headquarters lobby on Friday, Zuri said. 18 pieces exploring corporate responsibility and family legacy. Nothing explicit, but the metaphors are pointed. What the triplets carefully avoided discussing, even among themselves, were their individual private motives. Each had joined Grayson Industries with the shared purpose of confirming their parentage, but each harbored deeper, unspoken reasons. For Amara, raised on principles of justice and accountability, there burned determination to make Elliot Grayson acknowledge his abandonment, not for revenge, but because she believed facing one's actions was essential to moral growth. For Malik, it was simpler yet more complex. He wanted to understand the mind of the man whose genetic code had given him his analytical brilliance. Was his gift inherited from this stranger? Had Elliot ever wondered about the children who might have inherited his capabilities? For Zuri, whose art explored themes of identity and fragmentation, Elliot represented the missing piece in her self-portrait, a blank space she needed to visualize before completing her life's most important work. Did any of you ever imagine we'd actually find him? Zuri asked suddenly. That we'd be working in his company? Under his nose? I always knew we would, Amar replied, though I never anticipated feeling conflicted about it. Conflicted? Malik raised an eyebrow. He's different than I expected, Amar admitted. When we reviewed his business history, I pictured a cold, calculating machine. But in meetings, he's passionate about certain initiatives, genuinely engaged with improving lives through his foundation. Don't humanize him, Zuri warned. Remember what he did to Mom. I'm not excusing anything, Amar clarified, but people are complex. What if a notification chimed on all their screens simultaneously? An email from Grayson Industries HR. Congratulations. You've been selected for the Executive Shadowing Program. For the next 30 days, each of you will directly shadow a C-suite executive, including CEO Elliot Grayson, as part of our Leadership Development Initiative. Silence fell across the video call. This isn't part of our plan, Malik said finally. I never applied for any shadowing program. Neither did I, Amar replied, frowning. Zuri leaned toward her camera. Don't you see? He's making a move. He knows exactly who we are, and now he's bringing us closer. But why? Malik asked. If he wanted to hide from us for 25 years, why draw us in now? On her end of the call, Zara set down her teacup with a definitive clink. Because Elliot Grayson always preferred controlling the narrative. If confrontation is inevitable, he'll want it on his terms. So what do we do? Amara asked. You do what I raised you to do, Zara replied, her voice steady but her eyes revealing long-buried emotion. You walk directly into that lion's den, not as victims seeking closure, but as equals demanding honesty. As the call ended, each triplet sat alone with thoughts they hadn't shared. Questions about nature versus nurture, about forgiveness versus justice, about the thin line between vindication and reconciliation. and in his Hamptons estate. Elliot Grayson pressed send on the shadowing program directive, his finger hesitating only momentarily above the key. The game had begun. But who was truly the hunter, and who was a hunted? How far would you go to confront someone who changed the course of your life through abandonment? Would you seek revenge or understanding? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if the story of identity and reckoning resonates with you, make sure to like and subscribe. Because tomorrow, these three brilliant siblings will come face to face with a father who never wanted them. And nothing at Grayson Industries will ever be the same. The executive shadowing program commenced with a private breakfast in Grayson Industries' 50th floor dining room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Manhattan as servers silently arranged silver platters of fresh fruit and pastries. Elliot arrived first, selecting a seat that allowed him to observe the entrance. The door opened precisely at 7:30 a.m. "Welcome," he said, rising as the triplets entered together. "I believe proper introductions are overdue." His voice remained steady despite the hammering in his chest. 25 years of separation collapsed into a single moment as he faced three pairs of eyes, his eyes studying him with identical intensity. "Amara, Malik, and Zuri Johnson," he continued, "your reputations precede you." Amara took the lead, extending her hand with professional poise that masked the fury she'd harbored since childhood. "Mr. Grayson, how interesting that all three of us were selected for this program." "Coincidence makes for a poor business strategy," Elliot replied, his gaze never wavering. "I selected each of you personally." Malik's eyebrows rose fractionally. "Based on merit, I presume?" "Among other considerations." The tense exchange is interrupted by the arrival of Eleanor Blackwood, Grayson Industries' 72-year-old chief strategy officer. Her severe white bob and calculating eyes missed nothing as she surveyed the room. "I see our young prodigies have arrived," she remarked, taking a seat beside Elliot. "Fascinating timing, wouldn't you agree, Elliot?" Something in her tone made all four parties at the table stiffen simultaneously. "Eleanor was instrumental in our new diversity initiative," Elliot explained, his eyes flickering briefly toward her. "The board insisted we needed fresh perspectives." "The board insisted," Eleanor repeated with the slightest emphasis. "After anonymous evidence emerged showing our hiring practices were restrictive." 6 months earlier, Grayson Industries had faced a crisis unlike any in its history. An anonymous source had leaked internal documents revealing systemic discrimination in hiring practices, statistics, emails, and assessment protocols that trace back 20 years. The evidence was damning, impossible to dismiss, and methodically organized to cause maximum damage. The board had presented Elliot with an ultimatum: implement a radical diversity overhaul or face removal as CEO. The shadowy leak had been perfectly timed to coincide with contract negotiations for their largest government partnerships. What no one knew, not even the triplets, was that Eleanor Blackwood had been present that fateful night in 1999 when Elliot's father had ordered him to abandon Zara and the unborn children. As his father's most trusted advisor, she had remained silent for decades, watching Elliot build his empire on the foundation of that original betrayal. "Perhaps we should discuss how our new team members found their way to us," Eleanor suggested, her smile tight as she buttered a croissant. "The application processes were unconventional." Zuri set down her coffee cup with deliberate precision. "I submitted my portfolio through standard channels. After receiving an invitation from our art acquisition department," Eleanor noted, "an invitation sent to your private email rather than your public professional contact." Malik frowned. "My technology platform was identified by your scouts at an innovation conference." "A conference where you weren't originally scheduled to present," Eleanor added, "until a last-minute change placed you in the spotlight, directly in front of our head of R&D. Amara remained silent, her analytical mind rapidly connecting dots. "And Ms. Johnson," Eleanor continued, turning to Amara, "your community development proposal arrived unsolicited, addressed directly to the board rather than through normal channels. containing precisely the metrics we had internally identified as crucial just days earlier. Elliot's knuckles whitened around his water glass. "Eleanor, this isn't necessary," she finished. "I disagree. These exceptional young people deserve to understand the full context of their positions here." She reached into her leather portfolio and removed 3 identical files, sliding one toward each triplet. "Your DNA results arrived yesterday," she said simply. "I took the liberty of expediting the process." Shock registered across 3 faces as they stared at the sealed envelopes. "How did you—" Malik began. "The coffee cups from your interviews," Eleanor explained. "Standard procedure for executive-level hires. Security protocols." "That's illegal," Amara stated flatly. "Technically, yes," Eleanor acknowledged. "But I'm not concerned with legalities at this particular juncture." Elliot's face had drained of color. "This wasn't your decision to make, Eleanor." "No," she challenged. "Just as abandoning your children wasn't mine 25 years ago, when your father ordered you to walk away, and you complied without question." The triplets froze, attention darting between Elliot and Eleanor. "You were there?" Zuri whispered. "I've been there for 40 years, Eleanor replied, her voice softening for the first time, watching this family destroy lives in service to power. Understanding dawned on Elliot's face. The anonymous leak, the diversity initiative, the triplets applications. It was you. Eleanor didn't deny it. "I helped build this company at the expense of my conscience. I watched your father crush people who stood in his way. Then I watched you follow his example, beginning with your own children. You manipulated us," Amara said, her voice tight with controlled anger. "I created opportunity," Eleanor corrected. "The decisions were yours. The qualifications were yours. I merely aligned circumstances." The revelation hung in the air. Neither Elliot nor the triplets had been the hunters. They had all been drawn into a carefully constructed confrontation orchestrated by a woman who had silently witnessed the original sin. "Open the envelopes," Eleanor directed. "Confirm what you already know." With trembling fingers, the triplets simultaneously broke the seals. Each extracted a single page, eyes scanning identical results. Malik spoke first, his analytical mind processing fastest. 99.9997% paternal match to Elliot Grayson. The scientific confirmation landed with physical force. Theory became certainty. Suspicion became fact. Elliot took a deliberate breath. "I won't insult you with denials or excuses." "How generous," Zuri replied, her artistic temperament giving full expression to the bitterness she'd cultivated for years. As the tension peaked, Eleanor's phone chimed. She checked the screen and smiled without warmth. Perfect timing. The board has convened for an emergency session. A matter concerning the CEO's, how shall I phrase it? Undisclosed personal liabilities. "You're taking this to board?" Elliot asked, disbelief evident in his voice. "Not me," Eleanor replied, standing to leave. "The press. Anonymous source, naturally. The story breaks in 1 hour unless—" "Unless what?" Amara demanded, legal mind immediately assessing the obvious blackmail. Eleanor looked directly at Elliot. "Unless you finally do what you should have done 25 years ago." As she departed, silence descended on the remaining 4. The triplets stared at the man whose DNA they carried, whose choices had shaped their existence, whose empire they had infiltrated. Elliot looked at each of them in turn. "I know you have no reason to listen to me, but before Eleanor returns, before the board convenes, there's something you need to know about your mother. Don't you dare speak about our mother," Amara warned. "You need to hear this," Elliot insisted, pulling out his phone, "because Zara didn't tell you everything." He placed the phone on the table, screen displaying a text conversation with a contact named simply Z. The most recent message sent the previous night read, "They're ready. Are you?" The triplets leaned forward simultaneously, identical expressions of confusion, replacing anger as they processed the implications. Their mother knew. Their mother had been in contact with Elliot. Their mother was part of this. The game was far more complex than any of them had imagined. What secrets would you keep from your children to protect them? And what would make you finally reveal the truth? Drop your predictions in the comments, because nothing in this family drama is what it seems. Hit that like button if you're as shocked as I am by these revelations, and subscribe for the next part where we discover why Zara has been secretly communicating with the man who abandoned her and their children. Explain this. Now. Amara's voice cut through the silence as she pointed at Elliot's phone. Elliot's eyes moved to the wall clock. 53 minutes before Eleanor's deadline. Your mother contacted me 8 months ago. She'd been diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. The revelation hit the triplets with physical force. Malik gripped the table edge. Zuri's hand flew to her mouth. Amara shook her head in rigid denial. You're lying, Zuri whispered. We spoke to her yesterday. She's fine. She has good days and bad days, Elliot replied. The progression is still early, but her doctor gave her a timeline. She wanted you to know your history before she couldn't remember it herself. Malik's analytical mind processed fastest. That curator position at the Foundation Museum was never real, Elliot confirmed. It was a way for us to meet privately, to plan how to bring you three into the company. So our entire investigation, Amara began, was guided. The gallery owner who recognized Zuri, the archive business records that accidentally became accessible, the private investigator who confirmed your suspicions. Zara orchestrated everything. A notification chimed on all their phones simultaneously, a breaking news alert from the Wall Street Journal. Sources claim Grayson Industries CEO fathered and abandoned triplets. Board meeting called. Elliot checked his watch. Eleanor moved up her timeline. Outside the conference room windows, the office floor erupted into motion. Employees huddled around monitors. Phones rang incessantly. PR executives sprinted toward the elevator bank. Why the elaborate scheme? Malik demanded. Why not simply tell us the truth? Because Zara knew you needed to choose this confrontation for yourselves. She refused to make you victims in your own story. The boardroom door burst open as Grayson Industries' chief communications officer rushed in, face flushed. Mr. Grayson, we have 17 media outlets demanding comment. The board is assembling on the 52nd floor. Social media is exploding. Elliot nodded calmly. Prepare the auditorium for a press conference. 1 hour. Sir, legal strongly advises against. 1 hour, Elliot repeated, his tone final. As the executive retreated, Elliot faced his children. I prepared for this possibility since the day Zara contacted me. Everything I've built is secured. The board can't remove me without triggering provisions that would cost them billions. You think we care about your money? Zuri asked incredulously. No, I know you don't. That's the point. Elliot's voice softened. You three are extraordinary, brilliant, principled, everything I'm not. Amara's legal mind remained focused on practicalities. Eleanor's blackmail makes no sense. If she wanted this public, why the ultimatum? Because what Eleanor wants is an exposure, Elliot explained. She wants atonement. His phone rang, Zara's name appearing on the screen. Elliot answered and activated speakerphone. They know, he said simply. All of it. Zara's voice, the same melodic tone the triplets had known their entire lives, filled the room. About your condition, yes, the rest is mine to tell. Mom, Amara interjected, pain evident in her voice. Why didn't you tell us you were sick? Because I needed you focused on finding your truth, not worrying about mine. Zara replied. There will be time for my health later. Right now, Elliot needs to tell you what happened after he left Paris. Elliot took a deep breath. When I returned from Paris, I told my father I intended to bring Zara to America to acknowledge the pregnancy. He threatened to disown me, which I expected. What I didn't expect was that he'd already taken action. He'd dispatched people to convince Zara to terminate the pregnancy. Horror registered on the triplets' faces. They followed her for weeks, Elliot continued, but she recognized them and contacted me in secret. I had a choice. Play along with my father's plan while secretly helping her disappear, or openly defy him and put all of you at risk. So you chose to become the villain in the story, Malik realized. I made sure my father believed I'd abandoned you all. I transferred money through channels he couldn't trace. I never contacted Zara directly until after he died 15 years ago. Zuri's artistic sensitivity detected the holes in the narrative. If that's true, why didn't you find us after he died? Because I promised Zara I wouldn't. She had built a life for you free from my family's toxic legacy, and she was right to keep you away from me. I became exactly what my father wanted, ruthless, calculating, successful at all costs. The office beyond the glass walls had descended into greater chaos. Security personnel positioned themselves at strategic points. Legal teams hurried through corridors with document boxes. The company's crisis machinery was in full motion. Amara, ever the pragmatist, cut to the heart of the matter. What happens now? Now I tell the truth, Elliot said. All of it. You'll destroy everything you built, Malik noted. Some things should be destroyed and rebuilt, Elliot replied. Your mother taught me that. On the speakerphone, Zara spoke again. Elliot, they need to know about Project Legacy. The triplets exchanged confused glances. 2 years ago, Elliot explained, I began restructuring Grayson Industries' ownership. As of last month, 60% of the company's voting shares were transferred to a blind trust. Eleanor was the only other person who knew. What does that mean? Zuri asked. It means, Zara answered from the phone, that regardless what happens today, Grayson Industries belongs to you three. Stunned silence filled the room. I don't want your company, Amara said finally. I wanted answers. And now you have them, Elliot replied. What you do with the company? Keep it, sell it, transform it, dismantle it. That's your choice. I'm simply returning what should have been yours from the beginning. As if on cue, Eleanor Blackwood re-entered the conference room, her expression revealing nothing. The board is assembled, she announced, and quite unhappy. Good, Elliot replied, standing. Then they're ready to hear the announcement. Which is, Eleanor prompted, my immediate resignation and the introduction of Grayson Industries' new controlling shareholders. He gestured to the triplets. For the first time, Eleanor smiled genuinely. Well done, Elliot. 25 years late, but well done. As they prepared to face the board and the waiting media storm, Elliot turned to his children. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I hope you allow me the chance to know you, not as CEO and employees, but as people who share more than just DNA. Amara, Malik, and Zuri stood shoulder to shoulder, a united front facing both their biological father and their complicated inheritance. The decision they would make next would reshape not only their own lives, but the futures of thousands of employees, communities, and stakeholders connected to Grayson Industries. We'll hear what you have to say, Amara replied carefully. After that, we decide. Together, would you forgive someone who abandoned you if you discovered they were protecting you all along? Or would the years of absence be too much to overcome? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you're wondering whether reconciliation is possible for this fractured family, stay tuned for the final chapter of their story, where the true cost of forgiveness will be revealed. 6 months after the press conference that shook the corporate world, Grayson Industries' headquarters had transformed. The sterile minimalism had given way to open collaborative spaces. Where executive portraits once hung, Zuri's artwork now adorned walls. Pieces exploring identity, reconciliation, and possibility. On the 50th floor, the former executive dining room had been converted into a community meeting space. Today, it hosted an unusual gathering. The South Bronx initiative is exceeding projections, Amar reported, sliding documents across the table to Elliot, who now occupied a visitor's chair rather than the head position. Affordable housing units are 40% complete, and the Tech Education Center opened last week. Malik's accessibility platform integration is driving it, Elliot noted, reviewing the figures with the sharp analysis that had built his empire. These community adoption rates are unprecedented. Since stepping down as CEO, Elliot had assumed an advisory role while the Triplets implemented their vision for the company. The transition had been far from smooth. Board resistance, shareholder skepticism, and media scrutiny had created turbulence that tested their fragile relationship daily. London office called. Zuri said, entering with her tablet. Mom's flight landed on schedule. She'll be here for tomorrow's foundation launch. The past months had brought another transition. Zara's moved to New York to begin experimental treatment at Memorial Sloan Kettering, funded by the newly established Grayson Johnson Medical Research Initiative. Her disease progression had slowed, though not halted, giving them precious time together. The headquarters emptied as evening fell, leaving the four alone on the observation deck overlooking Manhattan's glittering skyline. I never brought them here, Elliot said quietly. Who? Malik asked. Anyone who mattered, Elliot replied. I kept everyone at a calculated distance. Business associates, companions, the board. They saw only what I wanted them to see. And what do we see? Amara asked. The edge in her voice softened, but not eliminated by months of cautious interaction. The truth, Elliot answered simply. All of it. The failures, the mistakes, the mischances. And maybe, if I'm fortunate, a possibility for something different. Their relationship had evolved through weekly dinners that began as tense business meetings and gradually shifted toward genuine curiosity. Anger had not disappeared. It surfaced in pointed questions and occasional heated exchanges, but alongside it grew understanding. The gala's guest list is confirmed, Zuri said, changing subjects. Every major financial publication will cover the announcement. Tomorrow, Grayson Industries would publicly launch its most ambitious initiative yet, reversing decades of extractive business practices through the largest corporate reparations program in history. Resources would flow to communities systematically excluded from opportunity, with transparent metrics and community oversight built into the structure. The board's final objections have been addressed, Elliot added. Eleanor was particularly effective at bringing the last holdouts around. Eleanor Blackwood had emerged as an unexpected ally to the Triplets, her decades of corporate experience complementing their fresh vision. Her knowledge of where the bodies were buried, figuratively speaking, proved invaluable in navigating resistance to change. I reviewed Mom's speech for tomorrow, Malik said. It's powerful. Zara had insisted on speaking at the foundation launch, determined to witness her children's achievement, even as a condition made public appearances challenging. She never gave up on any of you, Elliot observed. Not on your potential, not on your independence, not even on my redemption, apparently. She believes in transformation, Amar replied, even when evidence suggests it's impossible. Elliot nodded, glancing at his watch. I should let you prepare for tomorrow. As he moved toward the elevator, Zuri called after him. Dinner on Sunday? Mom found that recipe you mentioned from Paris. A simple invitation, tentative, bounded, yet genuine. I'd like that, Elliot replied, allowing himself the smallest smile. As the elevator doors closed, the Triplets turned back to view, standing shoulder to shoulder as they had throughout their lives. Think we're doing the right thing? Malik asked, changing a predatory corporation into a force for good? Definitely. Amara affirmed. I met with him, Malik clarified. Zuri considered the question. I think we're doing the possible thing. The necessary thing. Mom would say that to start, Amara concluded. In the lobby below, Elliot paused to study Zuri's newest installation. 3 intertwined saplings growing from cracked concrete, reaching toward light. The placard beside it read simply, Growth requires breaking. Some journeys begin with abandonment, but end with choice. Some wounds never fully heal, but transform into wisdom. Some families aren't formed in the beginning, but created through courage along the way. What would you rebuild if given a second chance? How would you transform pain into purpose? Share your reflections in the comments below. And if this story of family, identity, and redemption move you, please subscribe, and join our Soul Thread family for more stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the power of second chances. Until next time, this is T, weaving the threads that connect our souls.